looking into a crystal ball can be a pretty frightening experience. While futurists and researchers see plenty of exciting things when they consider what the coming decades or centuries might hold, they also have found plenty of reasons for alarm. From the proliferation of invasive technology to increased likelihood of war and a widespread vulnerability to hacking, the future is potentially plenty bleak. Here, according to the experts, are 7 downright terrifying predictions about the future. Brain hacking. Imagine if your manager could know whether you actually paid attention in your last Zoom meeting. Or imagine if you could prepare your next presentation using only your thoughts. These scenarios might soon become a reality thanks to the development of brain-computer interfaces, BCIs. To put it in the simplest terms, think of a BCI as a bridge between your brain and an external device. We may not even have to wait a century to have our brains fully integrated with our devices, as research into brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, is now firmly out of the realm of science fiction. Early prototypes have already helped patients recover from strokes and given amputees the ability to experience touch again with the help of a sensor-covered prosthesis. BCIs aren't a perfect technology. There's no telling what sort of mistakes or mishaps we'll encounter as companies and individuals begin to use these devices in the real world. What's more, BCIs, like any technology, can be hacked. Hackers can access a BCI headband and send manipulated EEG data. A hacker could also intercept and alter all data transmitted by your BCI. It's possible that a hacker could steal your past thoughts, user credentials, and interact with your devices, laptop, car, etc. These risks can directly impact our physical integrity. Brain data could also be stolen to be used against you for extortion purposes. The potential for serious abuse is significant. Virtually anyone will be able to create their own pandemic. Oxford's Global Priorities Project compiled a list of catastrophes that could kill off 10% or more of the human population. High on the list was a deliberately engineered pandemic, and the authors warned that it could happen as few as 5 years. Thanks to 3D bioprinters, Cas9 gene editing system, and other bioengineering tools, it's increasingly possible that someone with the right knowledge will be able to create their very own pandemic. This is such a concern that futurist Ray Kurzweil and technology expert Bill Joy criticized the U.S. Department of Health for publishing the full genome of the 1918 Spanish flu virus, expressing concern that it could be replicated and tweaked to catastrophic effect. The fear is that a rogue state, malicious group, or a malign individual might create their own virus and unleash it. Natural selection is good at creating nasty and highly prolific viruses, but imagine what intentional design could concoct. Deadly robots. Many technology experts agree with the singularity. The moment when artificial intelligence becomes smarter than humans will occur in just a few decades' time. Deadly robots can be another prospect. It's the Terminator scenario come to life. The unleashing of fully automated weapons systems that dispassionately hunt down and kill human combatants. These systems, known as LAWs, lethal autonomous weapons, are under development, and it'll only be a matter of time before they're tacked on to pre-existing weapons, including powerful munitions and nuclear warheads. These robotic weapons are supposed to reduce human casualties and make war more humane, but experts fear these futuristic killing machines could be prone to accidents and even escape human control. The biggest problem with laws come from what-if scenarios. What if they get hacked? What if a bug in the programming causes them to attack the wrong targets? What if a rogue nation or terrorist group gets their hands on them? Scariest of all, what if an army of laws are programmed to commit genocide? If any of these things did occur, would we be able to stop them? Hijacked cities. The dark side of our technological advancement is that we're also more vulnerable to attack. Glassberg points to the recent ransomware attack on Atlanta that froze the city's systems, which eventually costed $2.6 million for emergency response. We can expect to see more attacks like this in the coming years, particularly as city and county governments run a number of critical services which are often insecure and increasingly connected to the internet. Since it has proven difficult to stop and prosecute these attacks, especially when they use simple tactics like ransomware, this is a very realistic scenario in the coming years as more criminal groups will hijack public services in order to demand large ransoms. Privacy will become a thing of the past. We are rapidly approaching the era of ubiquitous surveillance, a time when virtually every aspect of our lives will be monitored. Privacy as we know it will cease to exist, supplanted by Big Brother's eyes and ears. Governments' ever fearful internal and external threats will increasingly turn to low-cost, high-tech surveillance technologies. Corporations, eager to track the tendencies and behaviors of its users, will find it impossible to resist. Citizens of the surveillance society will have no choice but to accept that every last detail of their lives will be recorded. Looking ahead, government agencies and police could deploy more sophisticated tracking devices, including the much-anticipated smart dust. Tiny sensors that would monitor practically anything from light and temperature to chemicals and vibrations. Internet contact lenses will also become a reality over the next few decades. You'll be able to recognize faces, meaning you'll also know who you're talking to and all the other information only based on the movement of your eyes. The effects of climate change will be irreversible. Late last year, world leaders forged an agreement to limit human-caused global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. It's a laudable goal, but we may have already passed a critical tipping point. The effects of climate change are going to be felt for hundreds and possibly thousands of years to come. And as we enter into the planet's 6th mass extinction, we run the risk of damaging critical ecosystems, radically diminishing the diversity of life on Earth, and rising sea level. The threat today stands to displace over 600 million people living in coastal areas, and the numbers aren't encouraging. The new study estimates a number of prime and populated coastal cities like Vietnam, Hong Kong, Alexandria, Mumbai, Bangkok, and Shanghai will come underwater at high tide by 2050. Climate models show that even if carbon dioxide levels came to a sudden halt, the levels of this greenhouse gas in Earth's atmosphere will continue to warm our planet for hundreds of years. Our oceans will slowly release the CO2 it has been steadily absorbing, and our atmosphere may not return to pre-industrial levels for many centuries. If humanity wants to remain on Earth, it's a cause worth fighting for. We're beyond the point of preventing it from happening, but we can take steps to slow it down. Space debris could wipe out satellites. People rely on satellites more than ever, even in an era where satellite television and other obvious uses of the tech are on the decline. There are hundreds of other ways you're using them without knowing it. GPS is a big one, but even basic communication systems often rely heavily on satellites. New satellites are constantly being launched, but the old ones are slow to be decommissioned or otherwise cleaned up. This leads to a buildup of what's known as orbital debris, and according to The Verge, this is starting to become a big concern. If you remember the 2013 movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock, she plays a NASA astronaut who's working on the Hubble Space Telescope when a missile strike on an old satellite causes a chain reaction of debris flying through orbit. This scenario wasn't made up for the film. It's a real thing called Kessler syndrome. If this were to occur, there is the potential for unexpected debris that didn't burn up in the atmosphere reaching Earth, causing destruction or even death. But even more alarming is that the chain reaction might just keep going and make it impossible to launch new satellites, as the still-flying junk might quickly destroy them. Without satellites, our ability to communicate would diminish dramatically. GPS would be completely wiped out, along with those systems dependent upon it. Space-based synchronization would grind to a halt, affecting everything from the financial sector to the electrical grid.